Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I've been talking about the Boston Celtics lately. I don't know why the Boston Celtics have been on my mind. Obviously, I'm a Laker fan, so I loathe them with all of my heart and soul. But nevertheless, I'm also a basketball analyst, so I pay attention to just about everything. And I'm telling you, there's a vibe over there. There's a vibe over there. I don't know what it is, but 4 to 6 weeks is what Robert Williams is now expected to miss with arthroscopic surgery on his knee. Obviously, 4 to 6 weeks leads you right up into the start of the season at this point, since we're now at the end of September, heading into October. And this is what I was talking about in regards to the Boston Celtics and what they should be willing to do when it comes down to it, if it comes down to a trade for a big star or something of that nature. They should be players. And Robert Williams, a player that I very much like, should not be untouchable. Why would I say such a crazy thing? Because it is. Because of that knee, man. When big men play on knees that need surgery, bad things happen. And that is exactly what he did in these past playoffs. He needed surgery and he played through it. He played hard. He jumped a lot. He did a lot of things, and we knew that surgery was necessary. My understanding is that he had already had a surgery. This would be a second surgery in the same summer. Now, I could be wrong. This could be the surgery he needed to have, but logic tells me he wouldn't wait this long to have it. This is something else. And this is why I said, when all that talk was going on about whether or not they would be willing to trade for Kevin Durant, I said they should be willing to do that, and Robert Williams should not be a player that holds up said trade. It should not be that. And they should be more than willing to move on from Time Lord, because Time Lord has a bum wheel, y'all. And I don't know what's it going to take for him to be at that level again. Likely a lot of rest. And with the way that he plays, that rest ain't coming. With what they need, that rest ain't coming. And that's the problem. They need to go get themselves another center. They should have been in play for JaVale McGee or somebody like that. Because I'm telling you, Al Horford, and we know Al Horford, I believe he's a Hall of Famer. He teeters on the line with a lot of people. If you go another direction on that, I respect you. But I'm swinging him in by a hair at this point. I think he's more than capable of doing good things this season. Hell, I think he's capable of maybe even being an all-star this season if Robert Williams isn't available. Because that's how talented Al Horford has always been. But the problem is, just like I've said about certain other players, Jay Crowder, certain other guys who we've seen be successful and be sturdy all this time, when is day one for them falling off a cliff? I don't know when that is. But what you don't want to be is the team holding the bag when they do. You don't want to be the guys paying them $15 million when they can only give you $3 million worth of basketball. Sometimes it just creeps up on you like Russell Westbrook did to us last year. And you do not want to be the team that's relying upon Al Horford solely as your center when you know damn well you have championship aspirations. I do believe the Boston Celtics need to look. And we talked about them acquiring Malcolm Brogdon and now Derek White being expendable. Listen here. Derek White is a player that played in the San Antonio Spurs for about 6 or 7 years, and this is off top of the dome. I don't know how long he was there. Probably not that long, maybe. The point is, he played his entire tenure with the San Antonio Spurs. They have one single point guard on their roster right now. Now, I know they gave up Derek White for a reason, and the last thing they were looking to do was trade him basically for the exact same package that they traded him for with the exact same team they traded him to. But let me tell you something. They need to consider that. The San Antonio Spurs don't have a pressing need for anything, to be honest with you, but they do need a point guard. And they don't have with Trey Jones, who I think is a fantastic young prospect, but like literally he's only one person. And then they got Josh Primo, who's a scorer. He's not looking to facilitate nothing. You know, this is a situation where I would have loved to see Sharif Cooper go there. He ended up signing with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Excited about to see what he's going to do behind Garland and those guys. He can really pass the ball, et cetera, et cetera. But the point is, they need a point guard in San Antonio, and the Celtics need a center. Enter Jakob Poeltl. Now, Jakob Poeltl is a player we've talked about a lot on this channel because Jakob Poeltl is a guy who the Spurs need to pay or play. It's like we talk about Kyrie Irving. Like we talk about a lot of guys. You got to pay them or you got to trade them, because if you don't, you're going to walk for nothing. Enter a need. Now, obviously, the Celtics would not want to replace Time Lord with Jakob Poeltl. Not ideally. You don't want to do that. However, if you're looking at the situation as it is, maybe they can trade Derek White for Jakob Poeltl. Maybe they can incorporate a way to get back Romeo Langford since he matches in salary. Maybe they can find a way to give themselves a bit more of a strength in that position with the acquisition of Jakob Poeltl's expiring contract. And if for some reason you just don't want to keep Jakob Poeltl, you can also let him walk, as to which it would not be necessarily an expense to you, because you consider it shaving off salary and bringing in a need and getting rid of Derek White. You don't need Derek White in that situation. We've already talked about this last night. So in theory, if for some reason Jakob Poeltl does not re-sign with you, what you did have is a high-level center in place in a championship-level team for which you are. So if he happens to walk, you'll just live with that, given the fact that you acquired him in a way that didn't hurt you at all. So this is why you say, maybe we don't want to re-sign him since we do have Time Lord, since we haven't traded him in this scenario. We do have Al Horford. We haven't traded him in this scenario, but those are the only two big men that I can think of on this team. Jakob Poeltl gives them a third big man, a very, very talented one at that, and somebody that they can ultimately do a lot of things with, give them a lot of insurance for Time Lord, and ultimately give them a lot of insurance for Al Horford, who can also play the 4 very comfortably, so you can play 2 of those guys at the same time if necessary. Rotate them with Grant Williams and, of course, the other bigs on the team. Jason Tatum, of course. So we're looking at a situation where, do you have a bit of a logjam at the center position? Maybe, but again, Jakob's coming off the books. Time Lord's got the knee. And Al Horford's a bit old and can play the 4. So this gives them a better center rotation, a little more comfort in the front court. I know Jakob's going to have to settle for minimal minutes in this situation, but it's only for a minute or so, because you're going to be somebody who's going to be negotiating for a contract. Now, in that situation, you probably don't want to have limited minutes, but you play for the Celtics, which means you're going to be playing meaningful basketball. Unlike what you're going to be doing right now, playing for the Spurs, for which they're looking to tank for Victor Wembanyama. So if I'm Jakob Poeltl, I definitely would much rather be in a logjam Celtics situation than a tanking San Antonio Spurs situation, given the fact that they're going to be probably trading me to some random spot anyway midway through the season. So this is a situation where it's starting to line up. Now, if I'm San Antonio, do I really want Derek White back at that contract? Maybe not, but it's 3 years, $15 million, something like that off the top of my dome? I don't know. It doesn't hurt you. You are a team that can easily reflip him again if you need to. When that year comes off at the end of the season, it's a 2-year contract. It's even easier to move. So that's not a situation where you're losing your mind. They don't need to do anything really if you're San Antonio, but make sure that you're bad enough to lose. So Derek White is not going to kill you in that situation. If anything, he's a familiar face, can come in and run your stuff. Somebody that Popovich can trust to help bring things together and at least have a cohesive basketball team that can ultimately raise the value of the young players around him. Because right now, Trey Jones, I don't know if he's going to be able to raise the value of people around him. I just don't know his game. He's a young player and he's only one person. So you still need point guards. So if you're the San Antonio Spurs, this takes care of your Jakob Poeltl situation. This gives you a steady point guard-ish type of player that you can move around the 2, and Derek White that you know very, very well. And this is a situation where you find yourself creating even more salary for yourself in the event that you didn't want to re-sign Jakob Poeltl but had plans to have to do so, or some weird stuff like that, for which I haven't fully thought out. But you can save salary depending on how you move around the trade. So this is a situation where I'm saying kick the can on it. If you're both teams, I don't see why you wouldn't. Especially given the fact that Time Lord is going to miss 4 to 6 weeks. I would stretch that out to 6 to 8 weeks if I'm the Boston Celtics, and I can afford to be honest with you. Why? Because what does he need? What did we say at the beginning of this video? Rest. That's what Time Lord needs. He needs rest. He doesn't just need to get healed up from the knee. He needs to be able to build the strength back into it, so he can be that bruiser and shot blocker that you want him to be. You got to play the long game with him. If I were the Celtics, I would shut him down for the whole season, because he's that much of an important piece to my future. Now, we're a win-now team if I'm the Celtics, so I definitely ain't looking at it as if I want to punt this season. But what I'm saying is, if I have a vision for this guy to play multiple years for me, and he's already having bad knee problems right now, if his value is going to stay where I want it to be and not crash to the ground over the next 3 years, I need to make damn sure that I do what I can to ensure that doesn't happen. Enter Jakob Poeltl once again, a 3-man center rotation that ultimately gives you a formidable situation, and you know you're going to need that because you're going up against the Cleveland Cavaliers at some point. And do you have enough centers to go up against those guys without Time Lord? Only Al Horford? You're going home. Donovan Mitchell's over there now. Darius Garland's over there now. You're not going to beat them if you don't have enough centers in place. Boston, you don't have that. Last year, you were able to get away with it because everybody was small ball. It wasn't as important to have centers. Well, look what Minnesota did. Look what the Lakers now have. Look at what other teams have. There are big players everywhere. Detroit has them. Charlotte now has a guy by the name of Williams. You got to deal with centers. That small ball, Grant Williams playing the center, Al Horford only playing the center. Time Lord can miss games here or there. You're not going to get through the playoffs that way this season. You need another big man. So, I do respect the fact that they have some other players probably on the back of that bench I'm not really thinking about. I think it's a tall guy by the name of, what's my guy? I think it's Bo might still be there. I think they acquired him last year. I know he's coming off the knee, but you guys know I'm super high on that kid. But it's still going to take some time for him to put himself together. It's not like you expect him to come out and be Giannis or nothing like that. At the end of the day, I expect, just like Time Lord, he's going to take a year or two to get to that level that I know he's going to become. So it's not going to be this season unless some crazy breakout takes place, not off a knee. So these are the type of things I'm saying, okay, I don't know what else they have. I'm a little ignorant as it pertains to the Boston Celtics center position and their back of the bench players and all that. I really don't know. I'm not going to sit up here and act like I know they've made different moves. But with Gallo going down, with Gallo going down, and they're never going to see him play in the Celtic uniform, unfortunately, because he got hurt right after they signed him. Now that piece is not in place, and you have even more of a strain on your situation. So maybe, just maybe, they were able to get some type of trade exception or some type of injury exception of some sort for him, as to which you can kind of throw in and try to make the deal sweeter. Whatever the case may be, if I'm the Boston Celtics, I'm looking to make moves. Because right now, with Time Lord missing 6 to 8 weeks, I see that as a bigger problem than just this injury. That's an injury that's going to beget more injuries because of the style of play, as I've said. At the end of the day, he's got to be tough. He's got to be able to rebound. He's got to be able to block shots. He's got to be able to catch lobs. And he has to be able to not have to think too much about his wheels when he's doing those things. You know, this is not a guy that you got parking it behind the arc or a Jokic type guy who's looking to, make players better. No, this is somebody you need to bang with the best. Joel Embiid, that's his target. Giannis, that's the guy between him and the rim. Those centers down there in Cleveland, that's the guy in between them and the rim. If he's not right, Boston, you could find yourself in a very bad situation. And mind you got injury issues that you did not have last year. Why? Because you picked up Malcolm Brogdon on top of that. And the Gallo situation. So now what you have is a little more, you're coming into the season limping. You know what that does? That puts pressure on Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. What does that do? Possibly open them up for possibility of bad things happening to them health-wise. Grant Williams health-wise. It's going to be leaning a lot on those guys to get you through the early half of the season without those guys. So I'm looking at the situation. I'm saying, Boston, I don't know if the style of play makes sense. Bringing it, because they do run small ball and stuff like that. They do play positionless ball. So I don't know if Pirtle necessarily fits. But it would be wonderful to audible into his piece if necessary, and it will be. It definitely will be. So that's something I'm looking at for the Boston Celtics. Since I had such a good look at them throughout the playoffs, since they made it so deep into the playoffs, I just understand that if they want to get back to where they were last year, they're going to have to make some moves that they didn't make. And while they made some good ones, they still have some others they have to make them as well. And I think they may actually have been a silent victim of the blockage of the market in the summer. When we talk about the Lakers having not been able to create their team, you talk about other teams that may not have been able to get pieces. The Boston Celtics and their retooling efforts may have gotten slightly derailed by that market a little bit too. I think so. Just a little bit. Maybe a move or two or something. Nothing big, but something that would just give them a little more strength where they need it. So we'll keep an eye open for them. They will be players going forward. I definitely expect them to make some type of move. And two, San Antonio, look, at the end of the day, unless they plan on signing somebody like a DJ Augustine or something, they really do need to acquire some type of point guard. I mean, it's inevitable that Trey Jones is going to be the breakout player of the year because he's going to have 40 minutes a game. There's literally no one else playing this position. So this is a very interesting situation there. And I just see Derek White as a player that they could acquire really easily, to be honest with you, that they can reacquire really easily from a team that they gave him to that didn't get the most out of him, to be honest with you. He's not looking as good in Boston as he did in San Antonio. You might as well bring him home. So that's kind of how I look at it. And then as far as the timeline in terms of what he would want for what himself, or I don't know that he demands that type of cachet, to be honest with you, to say I don't want to be in a losing situation. But what I can say is if he goes back to San Antonio, he will have all the minutes to show what he can do. They won't be winning very much, but he's it's going to be the ball's in his hands, and he has a lot of young players around him. Johnson, Primo, Vassell, really, really nice young cores of role-playing starters. They're looking for their victors. So all they need to do is tank it out, get that superstar talent through the draft if possible, and we'll see what Popovich can do in the final stretch. That's really what it comes down to. But the tanking effort is real, and that Jakob Poeltl piece is valuable. So they could still do something very good for themselves. Maybe even get a pick for Poeltl. I'm pretty sure that's what they'll probably actually want. So just brainstorming as always, you guys. But the NBA is right around the corner, so little conversations like this may be popping up in my head, and as they do, I'll give them to you. My name is BDL44. Thank you all for watching. Wow.